All right, let's get to the new theme music. I want to see what you think about this, okay?
Theme music, okay?
Toss it up. Toss it up. You're not supposed to be laughing.
It was kind of funny, though.
Toss it up.
It's your voice, right?
The Tossing Salad Podcast with your host, Brian.
It's cool.
You know how long that took me to do?
Probably have a good idea of how long that took you to do.
Took me a really long time. Oh, I guess it just loops also. So I guess I'm going to have to hit pause on that. I thought it would just kind of end. All right, episode 30, Tossing Salad Podcast. I am Brian Samatros, your host, and we have my wife Amy back for a follow-up episode. People are going to wonder, is this now a cancer podcast? And you go with what you get with your guests, right? So now I've got a cancer person that I can interview pretty easily. And I think we left episode 29 last week after the very first chemotherapy appointment that you had.
Right.
And there was a couple things that I think we were leaving some of the people not on a cliffhanger, but we have to kind of follow up to see how things went. So I know that if we were doing one episode, we would have to do two at the very least, just to give people some information as to how some things went. I take it, though, you're not crazy about my opening theme song.
No, it's actually really cool. It's catchy. It's just interesting.
Do you know who?
No, I like it.
Do you know who has that audio that I sampled in there? That's my friend Amanda from one of her TikToks or Instagram videos that she did. I was like, can I sample your sound? And she was like, sure. She was probably thinking just for one video at some point, which this was weeks ago. And I think she's forgotten about it. And I was like, no, I want to include it in on my intro.
Oh my.
Maybe I have to get back to working. I thought it was pretty cool.
I think it's very cool. It's not what I expected.
Well, what do you expect on the Tossing Salad Podcast?
I actually don't know what I would have expected.
All right, so last week, I think there were two big things with the chemotherapy that people coming back are going to want to know. Was it the issue with the Taxol and moving to a new drug, which we'll talk about on this episode, and how did that work? And then the other thing was off the charts panic attacks that you were having after that first chemotherapy session. And it was a few days afterwards, I think, to where it started just snowballing out of control. And we thought that it possibly could have been the steroids. And so talking to the nurses, so we're going to find out how that went as well. And then at the end of this episode, I also pulled some comments that we've had. It's been a few days since that episode 29 I posted on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. And we got some great comments, some questions, and I'm looking forward to having you kind of chime in on those. I do remember when I was telling you about the comments, you remember the first thing that you said to me about that was?
I asked if anybody was mean.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I don't know if we're going to go with where I actually work, but I get a lot of mean comments, so I'm used to these things.
You're going to get, I mean, you go to any strip club, you're going to get all kinds of negative comments. But that just shows you what our expectations are on social media when you put yourself out there. You're going to get some mean comments, and we're bound to get something. I get them almost every day, depending on what I post. The most benign content I can put out there, and I'll get something criticizing me on it. But we're here to help other people in having them go along and listen to your journey with your cancer battle and your chemotherapy. So let's talk about the Taxol and getting switched up to the other medicine. How did that go?
Right. I had an allergic reaction to the Taxol the first time I did it. So that was about 2 weeks ago. And then they switched me immediately the next visit I did, which was on Wednesday, they switched me to a drug called Abraxane. And from what I understand, it is the exact same drug, Taxol, something like that, just without the solvent in it that a lot of people are allergic to, which I was allergic to because I tolerated that Abraxane wonderfully. I had no issues during the administration of it, and I knock on wood, have had really no side effects of it since. It's been almost a week, roughly, and I did great. But more importantly to me, actually, is they removed the steroids from my regimen, which means I did not get any steroids, which can help with muscle soreness, some fatigue. I did not get any steroids, and my mind is back to normal. Basic level anxieties you might have during cancer or other medical treatments, I can deal with basic level anxieties. This past thing I had, I could not deal with. They removed the steroids, and clearly that was it, and I feel fine, and I really do feel fine.
So let's start with the steroid thing and the anxiety panic attacks. What was the process that you went through in determining, okay, could it possibly be the steroids? How did that come up? And then how do you contact who you need to contact to verify with them, the doctor, the nurses? How did that all take place?
Sorry if we went over this last time. I don't remember who I've told what, to be honest with you. But it happened that day. It was I think it was Monday, Labor Day, when I try to fill my mind with things that aren't stress related. So I said, hey, I'm going to go over to my friend Carrie's and go for a swim. And you said, should you be doing that, knowing that you have to work that night? And I said, well, I have to. Are you kidding me? I can't slow down. I can't stop. I can't sit. I can't watch TV.
And this is after the first treatment with the Taxol.
Right.
And the steroids.
Right. And so
how many days after was this?
It was a decent number of days, like 6 days or so.
Okay.
So I went to my friend Carrie's, and it just so happened she had another friend that came over who had been through chemo and said, oh my God, same thing. It was the steroids. So I said, And I sent a message through my chart to talk to my my doctor, which is, usually the nurse. And I just described to her what I was feeling, what was going on. I did not mention the steroids. And then she just emailed back right away and said, we're going to remove steroids from your regimen. And we did. I haven't seen yet any side effects. I know chemo is cumulative, so I might have side effects as we go on. But right now, had literally a normal week last week, and it was pretty awesome.
Listening to when you brought that up with the nurse, and we did talk about this briefly at the end of the last podcast. But again, we don't know until we could fast forward in time and they pull you off of the steroids to see, okay, what's the difference there? And it's night and day. I mean, you're pretty sure, the doctor and the nurses are pretty sure that it was the steroids that was just making you
crazy.
I mean,
crazy.
You phrased it that way a few times.
Yeah. I felt like I was losing my mind. And so, I mean, you're going to have anxiety no matter what going through this. You're going to have anxiety going through the allergic reaction, that whole ordeal I had. And that's fine. But this just felt like my mind couldn't quiet no matter what. And it was just like a jumbled mess, day, night, whatever. So they didn't give the steroids on the next treatment, which was Wednesday. But really starting like Monday night, Tuesday night, I started feeling better, which my guess is they were wearing off at that point. I started feeling better, and I've continued to feel better. So that's good.
Yeah, so that's good to know that if there's anybody else that has gone through this and just panic, I mean, just outright, you just can't settle yourself down, and you had to have the steroids, and I think they pumped you a little bit extra because of the allergic reaction that you had to the Taxol that first time, so that made things even worse. But by pulling the steroids, which helps you in recovery afterwards, there's not a big detriment in pulling the steroids, I guess, from what I understand, right?
Correct.
It's just some recovery benefits you're not going to have, but you'll take that over going crazy.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there were times I was like, I will just give up chemo and just play roulette with my life rather than keep going like that. Because I didn't want to live like that. It was really crazy. And the crazy thing, I don't think I even told you this, but I talked to my sister, and she told me she several years ago had the exact same reaction to steroids for something else. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe it's a family thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just some people do, some people don't. I don't.
Do you remember when we went there for the second appointment for your chemo? Again, today is Monday, so that was what, last Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah.
And we go in for the third one tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
We walk in to check in, And you remember how that went with the nurse that was there to check in?
I don't remember exactly what she said, but she was like, "Oh, you had a good time last time," or something like that.
So
I'm
she
like,
recognized you.
I guess.
And I thought that they saw that stuff all the time, which it does happen, but I guess you did kind of stand out to most of the nurses that were there that remembered you. Although I think it also helped because I'm a memorable person also.
I think that's true, actually.
And they just put a bunch of stuff together and they're like, oh, this couple again.
Yeah. These guys. Yeah.
But I think she just kind of said it jokingly, not to get it in your mind, but just to be like joking around a bit.
For sure.
And it's kind of nice that they remember you. I mean, it's for having the reaction, but the fact that, you're not just some random number.
Right.
The new drug, the Abraxane. So that went much better.
Yeah. And it's only a 30-minute treatment too. So that was 30 minutes with that. Well, we had to wait what did we have to wait? Like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get my blood test results to get back. They were just slow that day. So you go in and get your blood test and they wait to see if you're okay to get the chemo. And we waited out in that garden. That was so pretty there.
Yep.
And then we came back. It was a pretty day here. We came back in and 30 minutes on Abraxane, take that off, 30 minutes on the Herceptin, take that off and go home. That was it.
And you were on the lookout for the feeling to come back. I got to imagine if that's happened to you, you're almost wondering, okay, is this the start of the feeling again or not? Like, are you doubting whether or not you're having a reaction? Because that's obviously in the back of your mind.
Yeah. And at one point, it all started with my face feeling flushed. And I think at one point we were driving home and I started to think it was, and I was like, I'm fine. And I was fine. It turned out I was just fine. I don't know, just the thoughts go through your head a little bit, but I really couldn't have asked for so far a better reaction. Now, I know I'm early and I know it's going to get worse, but
I was wondering because the room that we were in last week for the first one was open. And I think they gave you the option of where you wanted to do your second one. Did you purposefully not pick that one room?
No, it wasn't given an option to me. I was only given two options, and neither one was an open or by the window or anything.
So. I was just curious if they had given you the option and you're like, no, I don't want to be in the same space.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have picked.
Because that was a nice area that we had. When I say room, if you look at that video I took and I put it on the podcast, the video portion of the podcast, you can see the type of rooms that we're talking about where the infusions take place. It's like in a big, great room, and then they're subdivided by portable makeshift curtains and everything. So, but where we had it, the second treatment, it's nice. You're still seeing the window, you're still seeing the garden. And so the Abraxane is the exact same, as far as we know, exact same drug with what removed?
A solvent,
which is what causes the allergic reaction in how many people? Percentage?
I've heard anything from 10 to 20%. I don't really know for sure.
And then this one here, I think you did a little research as to why don't they just start more people on this medicine than the Taxol? And what did you come up with on that?
Well, that it's too expensive. It's a patented drug, so that you have insurance companies will make you fail on another chemotherapy treatment, and then you can go on this one.
Right. So that's two of the big things that we were a little unsure of going into that second week, the second treatment. Good news for you in the sense that the steroids was the cause of you and the anxiety and the panic attacks. And when I say that, I think I'm even downplaying what they were because they were beyond what a panic anxiety. It was like
a constant panic attack. It was like a 24/7 panic attack you can't come out of. Oh, it was awful. I never want to go back. But I still, some of the mindsets I got into during that time, I still sort of have. And I'm just trying to work my way out of those, but not in a crazy way or anything.
Why? Hopefully, once you kind of get into a little bit of a momentum to where the treatment is just somewhat quick and you go in, you don't have the reaction. So now you don't have to worry and panic about that. You're on the right medication. I think that's going to help you as well. I think tomorrow, each one, is it I know this is going into being the third one. Not that you're looking forward to it, but do you still go through kind of a anxiety thing that tomorrow's my treatment day?
Not bad, no.
Or are you
I feel
counting
okay.
down to be like, okay, well, this will be the third one, then that means only 9 more to go?
Exactly. That's where I am. I'm like, after tomorrow, I'll be a fourth of the way done. And that's cool.
Well, good.
So, yeah.
All right. So here's what we can do to the end here. I want to kind of go over some of the comments that we've had after posting that episode. Now, I've had a lot of really nice discussions in the DMs of people reaching out. Now, I'm going to show some comments, but these are all public comments that came in. A lot of the private DMs, I'm not going to show those, but I just want to let you guys know if you guys did DM me and we've had a conversation about it, I really appreciate it. And then after this, I think tonight I'll share some of that with Amy as well. But the ones that we're going to show and have Amy kind of see on screen here today, these are all going to be the ones that are on public comments that were on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. So first one here, let's take a look. This one is a TikTok comment on the Tossing Salad podcast page there from Erin. And she said, "This is making me cry and I don't even know. My husband has been going through chemo for brain cancer and I am going through for breast cancer."
No, can't imagine.
How does that happen?
I don't know, but I could not be taking care of you at this point. So, man, shout out to you, Erin. That would be really, really hard.
Yeah, so I was just kind of asking a little bit more about her situation, and she said that her partner was diagnosed in 2018. It's an ongoing battle, and she was just diagnosed in January, but she's almost done. So that sounds like that's some good news there for Erin, at least. Yeah. That sounds like they need it,
For sure. Oh, my gosh.
So
I can't imagine going through that.
There's that one there. The other one, you like that? I've got this feature.
Oh, it's very cool.
Isn't it?
It really is.
I need to
professional or something.
I need to have like a producer of the show so they can do this. So I can just pay attention to hosting and talking. Yeah. Can you read these on the screen or no?
Yeah.
Oh,
I can read them totally. Yeah, they come up big.
So this is from Karen. She's one of my Canadian friends. And I'll just read this here. "Brian and Amy, I watched the podcast and I'm in awe. Amy, sharing your vulnerability is so brave and selfless. From my experiences with some really scary medical situations, I would like to share some thoughts in hopes that they may resonate with you both. Brian, never worry about what to say, just listen." I think that's my problem, Karen. "Never worry about having to know the answers. Just listen. Every day is different. Today's answers may not be tomorrow's. Be Amy's advocate. Be present at treatments. Hold her hand. Make eye contact. It is more comforting than you'll ever know. And sweet Amy, talk about how you are feeling. Talk about what you need. Talk about anything and everything that is taking up space in your head. Just saying the words out loud will lighten the weight of your thoughts and give you more peace at night. Take care of each other." So, Karen, I love everything that you said there, and I think you're right as far as I think that's why we're trying to do a couple podcast episodes just talking about it, because I do think here's my thing on us doing the podcast and talking about this, and you tell me what you think about that. I think with cancer, a lot of times you're just taking it from whatever cancer dictates to you. You're just kind of taking it, and I think that kind of overwhelms you sometimes. And I think by us getting on a podcast and opening up and talking about it and possibly even helping just one other person that's out there that's either going through it, has gone through it, you're kind of turning it around to where you're actively doing something to make something positive out of this that you can affect, that you can try to do. Am I off base or a little bit?
No, I think that's part of it. I mean, there's so many of my friends, and I'm the first of my friend group, any of my friend groups, to go through anything like this, and I actually really love talking to them about it, and I've learned in that I've taught them some things, and I think that, gosh, they don't even need to be taught anything. Not that I'm a teacher, but I do like sort of the idea that I could help someone. Going on message boards and stuff has helped me, and I feel like this this could maybe help someone. I have not yet done a group therapy or anything. I'm not sure I will. This is sort of going to be my therapy, I think, or has been my therapy.
And I think like what Karen is saying is like today that could be your answer. Tomorrow you may change your mind, and that's perfectly fine.
Oh, for sure.
To do.
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't know. Last week was just so different than this week. So I'm just taking it day by day. And I think that's what you have to do.
This is the bloomin' truth. This is a friend, Kate, from Instagram. Says, Brian, first, I'm going to start by saying your wife seems like an incredible woman. This podcast was so real and so honest. Thank you both for sharing your story and fight. So I think,
that's cool.
Whether or not some of the comments that we're reading or seeing, whether or not they've had people go through something similar or not, it helps me to just verbally not keep it like a secret. Like I still feel like we're keeping it. I'm looking over my shoulder like, okay, who are we supposed to tell or not tell?
Oh my gosh. Well, obviously us doing this, everybody can know, but yeah. Well, okay. So it was a little weird at first because we did keep it a secret for so long. And that was because our son was at West Point at boot camp. And so he couldn't contact us or we couldn't contact him. So we didn't want him to know at first. And we didn't want any of his friends to know or anybody who might tell him to know. So we did not tell him before he left. And then I just think that was a secret we kept. So it made it feel like it is a secret, but it's just not. I want people to know. I want people to. That said, I don't want to talk about it every minute of every day. It's so weird. It's like something that's like all consuming with me in some ways. Like it's the only thing I research, I look up, I talk about. I feel like I'm trying to gather all the information I know about it. And yet it's like in so many other ways, I don't want to talk about it. It's this weird like dichotomy. I can't really explain it very well, but it's both all consuming and it's the thing you want to just like go out with your friends out and just be friends and just not think about this, but it's hard.
Well, as your husband, and I know that's why I have to pause sometimes because I'm like, okay, well, there's things that I want to ask or talk about. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure she's all cancered out for the hour. So I just won't say anything, but at least I know, okay, well, if we're doing a podcast at 2:00 today, that we'll be able to talk about. So then I feel like, okay, whatever I need to ask or talk about, we can do it on the podcast as well.
So what do you want to ask or talk about?
I don't know. I wanted to find out if you liked my music that I did at the beginning. That's what I wanted to do.
I loved your music.
All right. This one here is from Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, Aaron is obviously not only on Instagram, but he's a hockey parent, friend of mine, friend of yours. Aaron said this was honest, raw, and absolutely perfect. Love you both so much.
Aww. I miss you, Aaron.
Let's see.
Come around more.
This one here is from my friend Patricia. She's on Instagram, and she's actually, Patricia is the one that did the logo for Tossing Salad and for the Garden Voyeur as well.
Oh.
She did the two logos for Tossing Salad. I use the logo several times in different accounts or whatever, but she's done it both times. Absolutely love it. And Patricia said, Amy and Brian, I am not great with words, but want you to know I listen to this and care about you, and I am sorry you are going through this.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it sucks, but geez, it could be so much worse.
All right. So Patricia, I appreciate you leaving a comment there for Amy.
Very nice.
This one here is from my friend Amanda, and I talked about Amanda before because she's the one that lent me her voice, her audio clip for my intro. So she is sending all the positive energy, and then she comes back a little bit later and says, I can't believe Amy doesn't like being on camera. I love her.
Oh, thank you so much. I do hate being on camera, though.
That's
not going to stop.
All right. This one here is from A. Buckley 7894. Great advice to take someone with you. I used to take notes at my mother's oncology appointments. Then we would review it later on. Amy and Brian, I think this is great. You were sharing your experience. One thing, if you are getting sick, make sure you ask about other anti-nausea meds. There are some awesome meds, to prevent and reduce it. Sending lots of well wishes to you.
Yeah, thanks for sure. I definitely agree about the taking someone with you part. And they prescribed me some anti-nausea medication. I think I took one a couple days after, like maybe the day after the first treatment, but I haven't really needed it since. So again, I'm very lucky so far.
Okay, and then our last one, because Amy does have to go. This is from Skiptown All-Star, Skiptown Denise. And actually, I think I've got an interview coming up with them. They're another husband and wife podcast team. We'll talk about them when they come on the show, I think in a couple weeks. But Skiptown Denise is saying, wow, Amy is so brave to go on the podcast and talk about her journey. I'm not sure I could do it. I give her so much credit. It's personal, and while talking about it, it brings up so many feelings for the person going through it. Thank you, Amy, for sharing. I actually have a question. How do you work a full-time job while going through chemo? It has always seemed mind-boggling that an employer wouldn't give you time off so you can focus on your health. In our country, it's unheard of. So how is Amy going through this time while also juggling a full-time job? Although Amy only has a 5% chance of the cancer coming back, I get why the doctor is recommending chemo. The fact that 5% can turn into stage 4 is frightening. I've always found it crazy how strangers, the cancer doctors, make these life-changing decisions for us, but if anyone knows best, it's them. To agree to chemo seems so easy, but not for the person going through it. I really feel for you, Amy. I think at the end of each week, you should congratulate yourself with some sort of gift, like a pedicure or a new piece of jewelry.
I like
Denise,
that. Yeah.
Hello? I think the gift is coming on the Tossing Salad podcast.
Oh,
but seriously, you deserve a weekly reward for going through and enduring. Do something for yourself. I would love to see Amy do a weekly with you, Brian. If she's up for sharing her journey, I would tune in every single week. Amy, you're so pretty. No reason to be camera shy. Thank you so much for this episode. I hope to see more of you. I'll be thinking of you, Denise.
It's all very kind. Very, very sweet. Thank you, Denise. Let's start at the top, I guess.
Yeah,
I do have a
work.
full-time job, and my employer has been actually really awesome through this, to be honest. They've told me to take what time I need. I just need to work. I'm sort of the kind of person that just needs to be around other people. I'm very much an extrovert, unlike my husband. And work fulfills that for me, and I think I easily could choose. I have a ton of sick time. I easily could choose to not work, but so far I haven't needed to not work, and that time is built up in case I do need it. But for now, I'm doing really great continuing to work.
You have to keep moving. I think I said it, I don't know, on this last podcast, or I've said it to some other people. You're definitely like that shark that people talk about. You can't stay still and do nothing.
I came for a little bit, but not that long.
I mean, you're constantly working. I mean, so you've got several things that you, let's say, work on that you're doing, and even while
volunteering
and doing, and while you're even doing things, you've got to clean or something. You know what I'm saying? Like there's always something that you're doing. You're multitasking, and I'm very much not doing that. I can do one thing at a time,
and all day,
and I can do it all day, and I do it really well. And I can obsess over just the one thing.
All true.
And as long as I don't have to interact or see other people, I'm fine. But Amy, like she said, is completely the opposite. And she needs to be doing something.
Yeah.
Not necessarily busy work, but you're made to
do.
To do.
To do. So that's the first part of that. And then the part about the, I won't say the doctor totally chose this for us. He did, it was a choice, and you did say to agree to chemo. And yeah, I don't know what this is going to end up being like in the long term. My doctor made it sound like it's going to be somewhat easy to do chemo, but yeah, it's hard to decide to put your body through that and to put your mind through that. And without knowing that it's really going to make that much of a difference, 5%.
Yes.
We chose it.
So the number there, the 10% is the chance that the cancer could come back without going through chemo. And the 5% that Denise is referring to is if Amy were to do the chemo, that 10% goes down to 5% return. But yes, if it does come back, if this is the same cancer that comes back, it comes back as stage 4. So
and yeah, that's scary. That's really scary. It's scary to hear that. So yeah, I'll choose that.
But from the doctor's perspective, and then my perspective sitting there, and again, I'm not going through it, but for me and the doctor, it's a no-brainer for you to do it. That's, I think, what Denise is saying is that not that it wasn't a choice. And I do think that you threw up a couple, like, I mean, do I need to? Do I really need to do this or whatever? And I'm just kind of looking at him, and he kind of just glanced over a couple times, and it's just something that it makes sense.
Yeah.
But we're not the ones going through it. We're not the ones that are going to have to do all of the, having the allergic reaction and the loss of hair. And I know that's a huge thing for you. That's a tough thing for you. So yeah, it's totally different for somebody that has to go through it, even though it sounds like there's really, you kind of have to do it, but you do have the choice not to.
Sure. It's, I guess my body, I could do what I want. Let's get back to one more thing. That idea of the gifts, great idea. I don't mean just like Brian buying me something. I mean like a little treat for myself once a week or once every 2 weeks or something. I like that idea. It's a good idea.
I think it's a coincidence that we were arguing earlier today because you're wanting us to get Hulu and Disney, and I'm not
$7.99. I'm getting it.
It's not $7.99.
It is too. It doesn't matter. I want it. I'm going to get it.
You're wanting Hulu and you're wanting Disney so we can watch Ahsoka, and I'm like, I'm not. All the prices just went up, so we have to get rid of. If we get rid of Netflix, then okay, then that's fine.
Doesn't matter. We're just getting it.
Well, Denise, this is what you've started. And it's not going to end.
It's my treat for myself. I'm pulling the cancer card. I'm doing it. Dang it. I'm getting Hulu.
All right. So that's that for the second follow-up cancer episode. This is episode 30 of the Tossing Salad podcast, but this is a kind of a back-to-back episode. We wanted to make sure we come back and just fill everybody in about the steroids, and that was pretty much the cause of panic attacks and the anxiety issue, and that was because they pumped you so much full of steroids because of the allergic reaction to the original medication, which was the Taxol chemotherapy drug. So if any of that sounds familiar, or you're wondering as you're going through your own cancer journey, that's just something to kind of store in the back of your head. Ask the questions of the doctor, and just be aware that steroids could do that to you if you have an allergic reaction, which I think 10 to 20% you said have an issue with Taxol in the solvent that's in the medication or something. So Abraxane sounds like a much better drug. And I think on the last podcast you said it's like 20, 25 times the cost because it's still patented. So there you go for cancer and medication and all that good stuff. Right. So, hon, I appreciate you coming on again. I thought if we did the one, we have to do two. So from here on out, it's totally going to be up to you as the appointments go.
Sort of fingers crossed we don't, in a way, because maybe that means that nothing bad happened to me. I have nothing to talk about. That would be something to where these become so boring and routine that there's nothing to talk about.
I'd be okay with that. That might be something that people would want to hear
about later.
Well, yeah, but we can talk about it later. But some other people would be like, I would love to know that we'll get to some point after the first couple appointments that you have that are stressful and things kind of happen, that they do kind of settle down and they become boring and uneventful. And then all of a sudden we're talking about that you're done.
Whew. Can't wait.
All right. Well, the only other thing that I have left for us to do is I'm going to play the outro music, which is the same thing as my intro music.
Toss it up.
I love it.
Toss it up. Toss it up.
The Tossing Salad Podcast with your host, Brian.